Hello, I'm Tim Montague. This is CU150, Episode 7. Today is April 30th, 2014. This is the show about technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship here in Central Illinois and how we're connected to the greater ecosystem of Chicago, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. Today I'm joined by Ryan Shelton, who is the president and co-founder of a company based here at the University of Illinois at the Research Park called PhotoniCare. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Tim. I'm glad to be here.
Really good to have a company whose co-founder, yourself, and then Steve Beaupart, I've known a little bit longer than yourself. I knew Steve starting in 2009, I guess, when I was at the Beckman Institute. And Steve really stands out as a very passionate, innovative person, obviously very successful professor in the Department of ECE, and what else? Bioengineering, of course, the Beckman Institute. So you have teamed up with a very productive person. So tell us a little bit about the roots of PhotoniCare and how you came to work with Steve.
Yeah, sure. I don't think I caught that last part, but I think roots of PhotoniCare, sure. Yeah, Steve's been a really fantastic partner. He's an incredible innovator, as is obvious by all of the awards that he's gotten. It's just really nice having somebody that he's an MD as well as a PhD, and he focuses exclusively on translating technology. So he's an engineer that's passionate about moving stuff into the clinic or the surgery or healthcare in some way. So that's just really fantastic. I first met Steve whenever I invited him to come speak at Texas A&M University, where I got my PhD, and we really started a relationship there. And from there, I ended up interviewing for a postdoc position in his lab. At that time, I was already had some interest in commercialization and entrepreneurship, and we discussed those possibilities when I interviewed with him as far as the various projects that he had going, and the one that spawned PhotoniCare I was particularly interested in. And from there, we just kind of finished developing the technology and looking at its marketability and commercialization, and we decided it was time to move forward with that.
So the company is based on something called Optical Coherence Tomography, which is an imaging technology. When did you first get involved with OCT, and tell us a little bit about the basic technology and what is the breakthrough?
Sure. So I've been involved with OCT for maybe 6 years or so. I got into it very early in my PhD. It ended up being about 50% or so of my dissertation work. And in a nutshell, it's the optical analog to ultrasound imaging. So in ultrasound, you send in some sound waves, and those sound waves reflect from tissue, and then using time of flight to see what time those come back, you can build up a three-dimensional structure of the tissue, whether that be in sonography or ultrasound of a fetus. There's a lot of ultrasound applications, but we can do the same thing with light, and we send in near-infrared light, and then that light bounces back in the same way, and we can tell by what time it comes back. We can build up similar images. The difference is that since we're using light, we can get much higher resolution. So ultrasound resolution is generally 100 to 500 microns, which is the size of human hair up to about 5 human hairs. The resolution that we get is about 5 to 10 microns. So that's the size of a cell in the human body. So
and that explains a significant delta, right, and why ultrasound can be used for imaging large objects like tumors or babies. Not that they're analogous, but when we're talking about the inner ear, the parts of the ear or the indications that there's a problem in the ear, like an infection, which could lead to hearing loss, and which is why this is so important, is really on a microscopic scale. These are things that you can only see with a microscope, or in this case, with an optical microscope. Do you refer to the device as an optical microscope at all?
You could. We kind of just refer to it as a 3D imaging probe or device.
Right.
It's in the same form factor as an otoscope, so that's something that the physicians are already familiar with, and we try to stick as close as we can to that, so they're not having to deal with a completely new technology and a completely new form factor. But yes, an optical 3D microscope is very accurate representation.
So the experience for the patient will be basically the same, right? They'll take the scope, stick it in your ear, but instead of just looking at it and looking through a magnifying glass, you'll be capturing an image, which will go to a computer, and then what will happen?
Yeah, so yes, as you say, it'll be very similar to the otoscope. The doctor will use it the exact same way, and we provide the same information. We just also provide this 3D information, so we can give them both, so they can better diagnose what's going on in the middle ear. So once that data comes to the computer, we do some processing on it just to turn it from its raw form into a form that can be visualized easily. And then from there, we might have some algorithms that would automatically take measurements as far as perhaps the thickness of the eardrum, which we've shown to change with disease state as far as infections go, or automatically detecting the presence of something in the middle ear like a biofilm. We're currently developing algorithms like this. That may be something that we implement as post-processing, because in some cases, especially at point of care, the physician really wants an answer, not necessarily a data set. So you give them an answer based off of these automated algorithms, and they know whether they need to prescribe antibiotics or not.
Right. So we're talking about ear infections, basically, potentially other problems with the ear, but that's the big one, right? It's a what, a multi-million-dollar or multi-billion-dollar industry in the U.S. today?
Sure. So every year in the U.S., there's about $10 billion spent associated with middle ear infections, and that covers everything from about $3 billion in just treatment costs, $3 billion in indirect costs such as lost work and the burden that it places on parents and patients, and then another $4 billion in surgery, interventional surgery in the form of tubes. I'm sure most people have heard of getting tubes, kids getting tubes. It's where they cut open the eardrum, put in a little tube that acts as a ventilation for the middle ear to kind of dry it out and equalize the pressure.
Okay. So your device is, assuming you're able to bring this to fruition, is going to put much better tools in the physician's hands that are doing the diagnosis, and then presumably you will be. So we're basically preventing the onset of more serious disease, which could lead to hearing loss, right?
Yes. So there's a few different kind of value propositions within this. One of them is just the better diagnostics in terms of let's make better decisions for prescribing antibiotics and prescribing treatment protocols. Another one, and we're targeting the ENTs first, so actually the specialty physicians, and they have interest in this because they're the ones that make the big decisions on, let's do surgery or let's not do surgery, or let's prescribe very strong antibiotics versus what treatment protocol happens there. They additionally see some other specialized diseases like tumors in the middle ear, which we can visualize as well. One specific thing that they are interested in is monitoring. So after they perform surgery, let's say that a child does need a tube placed, there's a lot of complications that can come from that afterwards, as far as they need to precisely monitor the condition of the middle ear after that tube is placed to make sure that things don't go wrong. And they don't have a good way of doing that right now. They essentially still use the otoscope, which just gives them a view of the surface, and they really need to see what's going on the inside. So it can really help with monitoring treatment as well.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the company and the recent successes that you've had. You've had a string of recent successes. Starting in February, I know that Steve received the Innovation Celebration Innovation Transfer Award. So congratulations to you and Steve for that.
Yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Innovation Celebration is a local celebration of innovation and technology from Champaign, Urbana. And you can see that at innovationcelebration.com. And then you've received 2 other awards. Tell us about the Proof of Concept Award and your I-Core Award.
Sure. So the Proof of Concept, it's an Illinois Proof of Concept Award, and it's sponsored by OTM with other various partners, and it's designed to take some some technology out of the university and throw some money at it specifically for improving its ability to be commercialized. So we proposed a project that is actually a feature of our device, and it would be something that we would add to our device as new functionality that would be very beneficial to the physicians. And it was funded. Steve actually gave a really fantastic pitch associated with that. It is very different than your traditional academic funding, because in this case we had to really write up to commercialization aspects, and Steve gave a formal pitch. The judge panel consisted of industry and investors, and it was very different. But Steve did a great job there, and we were awarded those funds, and now we can really put those university working towards furthering our product development. So that's a very beneficial award for us.
OTM is the Office of Technology Management, so they're managing technology commercialization for the University of Illinois, helping inventors patent their technology and protect their technology. And then the inventor, presumably, if they have something that has legs, will either license that, which is the route it sounds like you're taking, or what else? What other options do you have as far as getting rights to the technology?
Sure. So I mean, out of the university, there's a couple of ways that you would want to go as an inventor. Steve and I are both inventors on this particular technology that the POC award funded. I mean, of course, in our position, we would like to see that licensed to PhotoniCare, because that's where we're, that's what makes sense as far as our development goes.
Of course.
But then, it's also possible that those things could be licensed to other companies that are interested in that technology, and as an inventor, that's also good. And OTM, of course, just wants to license to the best person, to the best team that's going to get it commercialized. So.
Okay. And then the other, maybe there's more than one other award, because you mentioned iStart also, but tell us about the I-Core Award and the iStart Award.
Sure. So we were actually in the inaugural class for the University of Illinois I-Core Sites program, and that was back in fall. And Jed Taylor kind of heads that up. Harley Sorkin is the facilitator of that, and it was a great experience. Really focuses on customer discovery, value proposition, and validating your business model. And so we went through that, and it was kind of a short course. And then once we went through that, we were eligible to apply for the national NSF I-Core Teams program, which is a larger version of that, where we would go out to Arlington, Virginia, participate in an entrepreneurial immersion weekend, and then spend 5 weeks really digging into customer discovery and conducting 100+ customer interviews and advancing our business in that way. And we applied for that, and we've been accepted for the summer cohort. So we'll get started on that in the summer. It also comes with a $50,000 award, so that's nice to have for business development as well.
So I-Core is a program developed within NSF to help grantees become more successful entrepreneurs, and they're using lean startup methodology. First coined by Steve Blank, a Stanford professor, and really now has exploded onto the small business landscape nationwide and across industries. It's very popular in Silicon Valley, of course, but it's used in any and all industry you can imagine. and I use it with my customers here at the Small Business Development Center. I use especially the lean canvas.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about I-Core beyond the lean canvas and then this methodology of customer development. Walk us through, give us the Cliff Notes version of I-Core.
Sure, sure. So, you know, it's all about ultimately filling out that canvas. So they've distilled your effectively entire business model into nice compartmentalized segments that you need to have very well defined in order to move forward, and that's the premise behind it. But the way that we facilitate that is first through really going out and validating your customer segment and the value proposition within that customer segment. So you get out and you conduct interviews, and that's what it's all about at first. Is getting out there, boots on the ground, and talking to people and getting some feedback on, are we solving a problem that you're interested in? If not, you have problems that we might be able to solve. And really starting from, you know, here's a nail, let's go find a hammer for it, rather than I've got this technology hammer, but I can't find any nails. So that's really the problem that they're trying to solve there, which is really fantastic. And that's the main mechanism that is achieved by these customer interviews. But in addition to the customer development, we also run some really important things. For instance, who is our customer? Because you know, in healthcare, your end user is generally different than your influencer, your approver, or your purchaser. You know, you've got 4 or 5 people involved in this sale, and the people that you're developing this for, the end user or the physicians, they're not the ones that are buying it. They may have some influence over it, but they're not the ones buying it. And then in addition to that, there's kind of administrative things that you need to know as far as who has to approve purchases at what level. And we were really able to build out a nice picture of you know, what does our sales channel look like and who are we selling to? And that was very valuable to us.
So when you did interviews with potential customers, you actually interviewed several different categories, not just doctors or nurses?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it was one thing that was really valuable about the SIDES program we went through is that when we went in, we were focused exclusively on primary care, pediatricians, you know, primary care physicians. Through the development, through the I-Core SIDES program and talking with our customer group, we quickly realized that the place we really needed to start was the ENT specialty area. And so we kind of transitioned halfway through. We started talking to pediatricians, then we shifted over to ENTs. But all along that way, we spoke with administrative people, finance people, people in charge of capital purchasing. There's a lot of other people that we really needed to get information from in order to really understand how our sales chain is going to work.
And then through that process of interviewing customers, which I agree is so important, and most entrepreneurs wait too long to talk to customers. So that's one of the main teachings of Lean Startup is get out of the building, take your minimum viable product, or actually minimum viable concept, and start talking to customers. And so then how did you pivot based on that feedback?
Yeah, so we basically found out rather quickly that you know, getting new technology into primary care is a challenge, and especially if that technology is going to appear expensive in that arena. So we saw a much better route as moving to ENTs who are more accepting of new technologies, as well as have larger purchases in their office and reimbursements and things like that that would facilitate these larger purchases. We saw that as an avenue for us to get started. And then once the technology is validated in that market, it makes it a lot easier for us to branch off and take a low-cost primary care version of our product over to the pediatrician and say, hey, this is really working well here. Here's a version that you can use and that you can afford. So let's talk about this. And that's a much more believable route into primary care where we can really make an impact as far as early diagnosis goes.
So is an accurate car analogy that the initial product is going to be a Tesla, and then a couple years down the line, then you'll be developing the Ford Focus?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you're talking about primary care, so I mean, maybe it's more like a bike, but yeah, you know, we're really taking the technology and finding innovative ways to lower its cost, but maintain the level of diagnostic power that we would need to make it useful. And then that's really the way that we're going to push it into the primary care market.
Cool. So, tell us a little bit about how you're going to be using these awards. You've gotten several small cash awards now, and you'll be participating in the Teams program this summer in Arlington with NSF. And what is going to come out of in the next 12 months?
Sure. So, as far as these awards go, it's really going to let us finish the last bit of de-risking of our technology. So one really big benefit of commercializing technology out of the university is that we've spent the last couple of years really advancing the technology, validating it, putting it in the clinic to be used on humans through NIH academic funding. So at this point, we have very iterated prototypes that are near commercial in their usability. But at this point, we just need to take those. We have some very small technical risks that I think we can wrap up in the next 6 months with some of these funds. And then it's just a matter of turning it from a large, bulky academic prototype into a slick, small commercial prototype. So I think that's really what we're going to achieve over the next 6 months. And then we'll quickly go from there into putting this into the hands of a contract manufacturer, because we recognize that we're at the point where there's very little technology risk. There's not going to be a lot of engineering hurdles here. So let's hand it to the people who can just put this out in an FDA compliant way, as efficient as possible. So that would be our plan over the next 12 to 18 months, is to end up with an FDA ready prototype in that way. And that will require venture funding or private capital, which we're also starting a fundraising round now.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about that. So you're in the process of raising $3 million. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're going to be raising about $3 million for our first big milestone. That should get us through about 2 years, and at the end of that, we would have an FDA-approved prototype. An FDA-approved production-ready version of the prototype that's ready for manufacturing and product launch.
Okay. And but that process is, for the most part, without revenue, right? You can't. There's just no way until you have that FDA-approved product to get revenue, right?
That's right.
Cool. Well, what else would you like to talk about? This is great. You're a wonderful story of lab to startup, taking technology out of the University of Illinois and solving very real and important health challenges that face humanity. What's on the horizon for you personally as the company grows, and how do you decide how much energy to put into product development versus these other activities like fundraising?
Sure. So at this point, I'm still a full-time postdoc, so I still have some defined time that I spend in the lab, furthering technology, managing my team here at the university. But then in other time that I've set aside, I really focus on the business and writing the business plan, developing a pitch, and really connecting with potential partners and investors. And it's just really a matter of it's really great to have Steve as a partner for both of those, and he's very understanding of my efforts in both areas, and I think we reached a very good agreement as far as a split of my time where I can really drive the technology in the postdoc position, as well as the company in my kind of off time right there. And then I have 2 kids and a wife to take care of that I fit in there as well. So.
And as the company grows, how do you see this playing out?
So So I really think that this type of technology and medical device, it makes a lot of sense for an exit to a strategic partner or an acquisition to a larger medical device firm. That would be, I think, a likely outcome. That said, our plans are to take this all the way into to market and grow the company as if we were just developing products and we were building a company. So that's we're prepared to do that. That's our plan. But I do think it would make an attractive opportunity for a strategic partner.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I don't really have any other questions for you at this time. It sounds like you're off to a wonderful start. I wish you the best, and I look forward to continuing to see Photonicare and you and Steve Bopard flourish.
Sure. I really appreciate it, Tim. Thanks for talking. It's been good.
So thanks to all our listeners. Again, you're watching CU150 Episode 7, April 30th, 2014. This is Tim Montague at the Illinois Small Business Development Center at the Champaign County EDC. Thanks for listening and have a great day.